Good morning. How are you? You just want belly rubs? You just want belly rubs? High five. High five. Do you want to go outside? You don't? What do you want to do? You want to go outside? No? No? You don't want to go outside? You just want some lovin's? Huh? You just want some lovin's? Yeah? Oh, just a good boy. Just a good boy. We got a lot to do today. We gotta go outside. No, that's not what I said. I said we gotta go outside. We gotta go outside. This is our normal morning routine. Kenai won't do anything until he gets his cuddles. Huh? You just need some lovin's, don't you? You just need some lovin's. He will block my way every time until he gets what he wants. Oh, you're a good boy. You're a good boy. And even then, it takes a little bit of convincing to get him to go outside. Come on, let's go. All the way. No. Let's go. Come on. As I was telling Kenai a moment ago, I have a lot I need to get done today. I'm not doing any construction at the moment, and that is partly because I need to go get some more materials. Before I do that, I have to clean my house and get some chores done. Before I can do anything, though, I need to make Kenai his breakfast. So right now, I am just cooking up some steaks for him. Here I have some round steaks that he will be enjoying this morning. I'm just heating these steaks through, basically. I'm not really cooking them. And the reason I'm doing that is that, believe it or not, Kenai does not like his food cold. Hence why it's just barely getting cooked through. It's not even, like if I were to cut up one of these steaks, you would see that they're completely pink in the middle. But I am going to be cooking up his eggs. Now, a lot of you mentioned giving him raw eggs would cause some type of nutrient deficit, but I'm cooking them for another reason. I'm cooking them because of the bird flu and salmonella. I started thinking about it. I'm like, I wouldn't eat a raw egg because of salmonella. I might coddle an egg, which means to submerge it in boiling water for a few moments to kill off any potential bacteria on the shell of the egg. Before you crack it open and you eat the raw egg, but I still wouldn't do that. I still wouldn't eat a raw egg. And also the bird flu. I don't want him coming in contact with that potential virus because it has been known to jump species. The videos that I've posted for the past month and a half have left a lot of questions unanswered. And so today I'm going to explain a lot of things that maybe got left out or were just left for speculation. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video where I took Kenai off of dry kibble and started making some homemade dog food. And a lot of you guys had some really great comments in there. And while I can't address all those comments, I do want to address a couple of them. And the first thing I want to tell you is that I did have the proportions wrong when I made that first batch of food for him. I was so tired at the end of the day that I wasn't clearly thinking. And so please don't use the recipe that I put out. Please, again, do your own research. The second thing was, you had mentioned the salt. Why am I putting salt in there? The pumpkin, which is just pureed pumpkin, it's not pumpkin pie filling, has 0 salt added. The carrots had very little salt added, and he was only getting a portion of those carrots in his single day feeding. So that's why I added salt. For his weight, there was not enough salt in there. But I've also taken out all of the extra fillers in his food. So no more grains, no more pumpkin, no more carrots, peas or apples. He wasn't enjoying those, and it was leaving a lot of waste product in his bowel movements. And also I tried giving him sardines, which he really didn't like. He wouldn't even touch the sardines. So now he is, like I said, getting steak or hamburger, so lean muscle meat mixed in with some organ meat. He's getting about 4 to 5 eggs a day. He's eating about 2 to 2.5 pounds of food a day, compared to the amount of calories he was getting before, the amount of weight in food he's getting a lot less. With Kenai now fed, I need to get busy and get some things done around the cabin. As you can see, I am completely out of firewood in the cabin. I do have a fire going so that I can get some hot water and do the dishes. All those dishes that you may have seen piled up behind me are from basically making Kenai's food. And since I've simplified it, it should mean I'm doing a lot less dishes than I have been. Nonetheless, before I can bring in firewood, I need to move the rack out of the way and clean underneath it. When I built this rack, I should have put it on casters so that it is easier to move. It's not that heavy when it's empty, but it's still kind of flimsy. But nonetheless, there's a lot of debris that winds up accumulating underneath this rack. And so I want to sweep out underneath it before I refill it. As you can see, a lot of scrap and dog hair accumulates underneath the wood rack. And I do have a brush that kind of reaches underneath there, but it doesn't do a really good job of cleaning this out. And so every time I empty the wood rack, I wind up pulling it away and sweeping all of this up. And I apologize for the light changing in here. There's a motion sensor light LED strip that keeps shutting off. It doesn't stay on for very long. It just provides enough light so that I can make it down the stairs in the dark. Typically, everything that I just swept up and put in this paper bag, I would actually put into the wood stove behind me and just use it as tinder, essentially. However, I need to burn some trash today, so this is going to go outside. Big guy. Hi, big guy. You gonna be in the shop? You are? I often get asked questions about my wood storage rack being close to my wood stove, and do I worry about the potential for it catching on fire? And the answer to that is I do not. Right now, the chimney temperature is about 350, 375, but I can put my hand directly on the side of this wood stove and I can touch the back of it and this wall back here, and it's cold to the touch. Not cold, but it's not hot by any means. Do I worry about setting something close to the front of the stove or something falling on top of the stove? Absolutely. These are incredibly hot. But the sides, because I have this air baffle here on the side, it is not hot at all. And the wood here never gets hot either. It might get, warm eventually, but it's not generally ever a concern of mine, even with having bark exposed to the wood stove. As you might know, birch bark is incredibly flammable. It's like putting gasoline on a fire. It can go up in a matter of seconds. But I still don't worry about it. Now, speaking of fire, one of the more recent videos that I did talked about the potential for a greater risk of fire this summer due to the lack of snow on the ground this winter. And it isn't just for this area, it's for all of Alaska. And that was an area of contention for a lot of people because they were unable to understand what snowfall has to do with summer fires. As you can see behind me, there is hardly any snow on the ground. In fact, if you look right there, you can see some little green plants sticking up out of the snow. And you have to agree that when there's snow on the ground and when the snow is melting, that adds moisture back into the air. And it is the relative humidity which is the massive concern for those early forest fires this year. Our burn season here runs from April 1st through August 30th. This year, the Forest Service is looking at expanding that on the front end because of the fact that all of this snow is bound to be gone within probably the next month. There might not be any snow on the ground. It is threatened to snow here, but all we've gotten is a little dusting here and there. Not enough to make a big difference one way or the other. When that snow is no longer on the ground and the winds come up in the spring, it's going to dry out the air. And as the relative humidity decreases in the air, it means that it's going to affect things like these small shrubs right next to me and tall grasses and leaf litter or pine needles, spruce needles, if you will, pine cones, all those things that collect on the forest floor are going to be exposed that much earlier in the year. The grasses and the leaf litter are actually the one catalyst that can spread a forest fire quicker than anything. But what happens is grasses catch fire and they spread rapidly. They come into the understory of the trees, they warm those up and bring them up to their ignition point, and then that climbs, and then before you know it, the bigger trees and the very large trees have all warmed up to a point where they can ignite. Now, I'm not the only one who's worried about this. Other residents in Alaska are also worried about the concern for a greater fire danger this summer, but so is the Forest Service for the state and also local fire departments. As I mentioned, our fire season in this area of Alaska typically is from April 1st through August 30th. During that time, they don't allow any open burning other than a small warming fire. So you could have a small campfire, but nothing like burning brush or trash in an open container. And if you needed to burn something, you would have to apply for a permit. But before they determine whether or not they're going to issue those permits, they're going to use some specialized equipment to make their determination on what the relative humidity is and whether or not they will issue those permits. One of the pieces of equipment that they'll use is something like this. This is going to tell them what that humidity level is in the air. They take this vial, which I believe contains isopropyl alcohol. They apply some to the end on this wick here, and then they're going to spin this around in the air for a certain length of time. And when they're done, they'll read the gauges on these two thermometer looking devices here. And that will tell them what the relative humidity is and whether or not they're going to be eligible to even grant those burn permits. Now, I'm sure that we can all agree that the more snow there is and the longer it stays on the ground, the less likely it is that all that forest debris is going to be exposed to the elements, and therefore we're less likely to have an early forest fire this year. But with that being said, I need to go get some water. And luckily for me, the underground aquifers are not affected by our snow amounts over the years, at least not here locally, because a lot of the rivers here are glacier fed along with the lakes, and that also feeds directly into those aquifers. And so I don't have to worry about a lack of water here, and neither do the fire departments. They'll have plenty of water to fight those forest fires. Did you notice my new boots? They're not military grade bunny boots. They are an aftermarket that is made here in Alaska, and they're very comparable to the military style. They keep my feet absolutely warm. I'm very happy to have these. Might not have been cold enough today to really warrant them, but they had the ice cleats with them, and so that's why I wore those to go get water. And speaking of where did I get things, a lot of you ask about my skirts that you've seen me wearing in my videos. Where did I get these skirts? Did I make these skirts? I did not make any of the skirts that you have seen me wear. All of these skirts that I'm showing here on the screen, these all were purchased off of Amazon. So if you're interested in these, just type in long maxi wool skirts and you're sure to find some that are your liking. But yes, they all came off of Amazon. And a question came up about how do I do my hair. So let me walk you through that. I basically split my hair down the middle, and then I take a section starting at the top and I twist it backwards. And after a couple twists, I just then take another section and twist that in, and I keep going around until I make it all the way to the back, and then I take a single bobby pin and pin it to the back of my head. Then I repeat the same process on the other side until I have my hair all rolled back. And that's how I do my hair. So there have also been some questions about my hair, specifically two questions. One is, where do I get it colored? Well, I do that myself. I've done it for decades and I've always had pretty good success with it. However, sometimes the color comes out a bit brassy and I have to tone it, which is why you might see it have a pink or a purple tone to it. And it's never intentional, but I always appreciate it when you guys say it looks cute. So thank you for that. And I hope it does, because sometimes I'm like, oh my God, that's not what I was going for. Nonetheless, I wash that product out and wash my hair on a regular basis using this. This is a rinse kit. It has an internal battery that I can charge up, and then it'll hold water up to 120 degrees. And I believe it holds a couple of gallons of water, maybe 2 gallons. But nonetheless, it's just got a little spray nozzle like you would find on a garden. And because it's, you know, battery operated, when I squeeze the handle, it'll put out a pretty good jet stream of water. Now I can change it to, you know, different settings here. A fine mist even. And right now it's gonna tell me that it's just about out of water. So I should probably stop using it. But I'm not sponsored by Rinse Kit. However, this is, you know, a fantastic little device. You could take it camping with you. I can take it out in the yard to wash something off. I could use it to rinse off dishes if I needed to. I typically don't. But that is one of the things that I use here in the cabin. And speaking of things that I use in the cabin, and knowing that that is an electrical device, and knowing that I am not a big fan of electrical appliances, one of the other questions I get is regarding the fact that I use 4 chest freezers and a non-electric ice box. Really what the concern is whether or not it'd be more economical to use a modern refrigerator in comparison to having to freeze ice blocks in one of my chest freezers. And the answer to that is no, it actually wouldn't be. First off, this doesn't use any electricity whatsoever. Yes, I do have to freeze my ice blocks in the freezer, but according to Google, a refrigerator actually uses more electricity than a 7 cubic foot freezer does. And these ice blocks only take up a very small section of one of those freezers. And the rest of that freezer is completely packed full of food, as well are the other 3. Now, I am the only person in this household, but I buy groceries to last me between 6 to 8 months. And I freeze the vast majority of what I purchase. And that includes everything from meat, dairy, and fresh produce gets frozen. So, in short, in order to answer your question, no, it wouldn't be more economical because I also don't use this year round. Now, granted, I could unplug the refrigerator if I wasn't using it, but most of the winter, this is actually empty. And yes, these ice blocks are still taking up space in here, but I'm still going to use the 4 chest freezers regardless. So even if I were to give up 1 chest freezer in place of the mini refrigerator, it still wouldn't be more economical than doing it the way I do now. Now, there were a couple other things I wanted to touch on. And one of those is that I've gotten notice from you guys that some of you have been unsubscribed from the channel, and some of you have been taken off the notification list. So if I put out a video or a post, you're not getting notified of that. So I recommend that you go in and double check to make sure that you are still subscribed, that your bell notifications are still turned on. And also, like I said in my last video, if you're still watching at this point, obviously you find this interesting, and I would appreciate it if you could give this video a thumbs up, because it really does help my channel. And like I said before, it'll help YouTube recommend things that you might like similar to this. And speaking of electricity and bringing things into the future here in the cabin, one of the questions that I got was regarding the object that fell from the sky a couple of weeks ago. And unfortunately, the day that I posted that video, there was a tragic plane crash just outside of Nome, Alaska. However, Nome is nowhere near where I live. We're on exact opposite sides of the state. So I do apologize. It was just bad timing that that video came out on the same day that that plane crash occurred. And my heart and prayers goes out to the families and anyone who lost their lives in that plane crash. It was really a tragic event. But with that being said, as far as what fell from the sky, I believe that it was a meteorite. However, it did not land on my property. I can guarantee you that, because I reviewed that footage over and over again for hours, and it appears to have crashed way back away from my property on one of the mountaintops. So I don't think I have anything to go look for, nor do I think I have anything to worry about. Or do I?
Where is everybody? Huh? Where is it? I'm alone.